On April 30th, 2019, Paramount released the first look at what the Sonic movie was going to be about and what the Speedy Blue Hedgehog was going to look like. And to say people disliked the design would be an understatement. His original design is really uncanny and honestly ugly. He had small separated eyes, human-like teeth, blue arms, and his gloves were non-existent. Everyone and their mother had something to say about his design, and he was bullied so hard that Paramount postponed the movie to release on February 14th, 2020, so they could redesign Sonic. I'm so glad that they listened because the movie Sonic we have now is way better than that monstrosity we had before. With the success of the first movie, Paramount wasted no time to start filming more for this franchise, with 3 movies being released, plus the Knuckles show, and more coming in the future. Of course, since this is the internet, there are people that hate on the movies because they're too different and not canon to the games. In this video, I want to give reasons on why I love the movies and why more people should give them a chance. I'll try my best not to sound too biased, but I can't make any promises on that one. I'll give a somewhat detailed summary for each movie while also expressing my enjoyment and views on certain scenes. And if it isn't obvious, there will be spoilers for all 3 movies in this video. While I yap, I'll be redrawing scenes correlating to the movie I'm talking about with my human designs because there are tons of scenes I've been wanting to redraw. To keep this video on the shorter side, I will only briefly talk about the Knuckles series and the most relevant parts that appear in the 3rd movie. If you'd like me to do a more in-depth review and summary, let me know. Before we get started, I wanted to say how grateful I am that we reached 1,000 subscribers. It's honestly so unreal to me. I've dreamed of having my own YouTube channel since forever, and now that I finally have ideas and people like them, it's incredible. I literally can't put into words how happy this makes me, and I hope that I can keep creating videos that inspire others. Anyway, let's start with the first movie. Before we get into what happens in the first Sonic movie, I wanted to dig a little deeper on Ugly Sonic and how they worked on redesigning him. Many people have speculated that the whole thing was a marketing stunt to get more people to talk about the movie, but this isn't the case. They had merchandise with this exact design as well as concept art and the in-person model looking like Ugly Sonic. In order to make sure their design looked better, they asked Tyson Hesse to help create movie Sonic. If you aren't familiar with his work, early on he created fan comics of Sonic the Hedgehog, but more recently has worked on artwork for the Archie comics and concept art for Sonic Mania. If it wasn't for this glorious man, we'd still be in the trenches of Ugly Sonic, and for that I thank him. As mentioned before, this movie was released February 14th, 2020, just before all movie theaters shut down because of the pandemic. I was lucky to see this movie before my local theater was closed off from the public, and I still have the ticket. Anyway, this movie follows Sonic the Hedgehog, played by Ben Schwartz, and Tom Wachowski, played by James Marsden, as they make their way to San Francisco to retrieve Sonic's lost rings. Some honorable mentions of characters we meet later are Maddie Wachowski, played by Tika Sumpter, Wade Whipple, played by Adam Pally, Rachel, played by Natasha Rothwell, and Agent Stone, played by Lee Majdoub. Before these 2 meet, we are given a backstory on how Sonic ended up on Earth, where we find out that Sonic is from a different world that is very reminiscent of Green Hill Zone. We also meet his caretaker Longclaw, who is an original character to the movies. It's speculated that she was based off the owl character from the Sonic OVA. We don't see her very long since she sacrifices herself to send Sonic to another planet using a ring as the gateway. 10 years later, we see that Sonic has been living on Earth as he expresses his favorite things about the town he lives in, Green Hills, and Earth itself. This is where we meet a few of the previously mentioned characters, as well as finding out Sonic is actually super lonely. He's grown an attachment to Tom and Maddie as he pretends to have movie nights with them. It's genuinely so heartbreaking to see Sonic living like this because he's usually such an energetic and expressive guy. Tom gets accepted to be part of the police force in San Francisco, and at the same time, Sonic plays baseball by himself, where he realizes how lonely he is, so he runs around each base. So upset, in fact, that he releases a huge amount of energy, causing a blackout across multiple states. This is our first look into what Sonic's powers look like. They make it look like electricity, which they do for a lot of speedster characters, which I've seen that has upset a few people since Sonic is the Knight of the Wind and all, but I personally like it, mainly because it's just cool. This sends the US into a panic, so they insist on using their special weapon. What is it, you ask? Dr. Robotnik. If you didn't already know, Robotnik is played by Jim Carrey, and they couldn't have picked a better person to play him. He gives him so much personality while also staying true to the source material. This role also somehow kept him coming back, and that makes me super happy because his Eggman is one of my favorites. Anyway, Robotnik arrives at the scene of the incident with his assistant Agent Stone. He uses his drones to locate what the problem is, which in turn forces Sonic out of his home. The safest place he can think of is Tom's house, so he makes his way there. Tom ends up walking in on Sonic about to use his rings and shoots him with a bear tranquilizer courtesy of Maddie. This is how Sonic's rings end up in San Francisco, specifically the top of the Transamerica building. Robotnik was hot on Sonic's trail, however, and ends up at Tom's house to investigate. Tom distracts Robotnik while Sonic hides in the attic. This doesn't end very well because Robotnik sends drones to scan Tom's house, and this scares Sonic. He rolls out of the way but ends up rolling all the way down the stairs while making a lot of noise. Robotnik forces his way in and expects to find Sonic, but instead finds raccoons. He is about to leave until he finds one of Sonic's quills and in turn threatens Tom. So, Sonic comes out of hiding and without hesitation, Tom punches Robotnik in the face. They escape and head for San Francisco. At first, Tom doesn't want to help him since he's trying to have a clean record, but Sonic convinces him anyway. They make a stop at a gas station that also has a super cool bar across the street. Tom calls Wade to check in, but it turns out Robotnik has already got to him. While Tom is on the phone, Sonic tries his best not to be lured in by how cool and amazing the bar is to him. It doesn't work, and he leaves to go to the bar. Tom notices and immediately knows where he went. At first, Tom tries to get Sonic out of there, but decides they can spend a few hours at the bar because he finds out Sonic hasn't done a lot of things with his time on Earth. At the end of their little montage, we see that there are a few people that don't quite like them because they're hipsters. So, Sonic ends up starting a bar fight. They're able to escape and bunker down for the night in a nearby motel. They have a cute moment where Tom tucks Sonic in after he passed out on the bed. We also find out that Tom is on the news, and not for a good reason. This scene is so freaking cute because you can tell that Tom genuinely cares for Sonic, even if he isn't really showing it. They're just so comfortable around each other, and it makes me really happy to see. The next day, they're back on the road, and Sonic asks Tom what he has on his bucket list. This is where Sonic finds out Tom is moving out of Green Hills, and he's not very happy about it. This is another great scene because, to Sonic, Tom has a perfect life in Green Hills, and he doesn't understand why he'd want to leave. On the other hand, Tom doesn't see why this is such a big deal because it's a small town, so he's not really stopping any major crimes or saving lives. This gets Sonic riled up, and at the same time, Robotnik is right on their trail again. They take turns fighting the drones that Robotnik sends after them until they're left with a tiny one that ends up taking the roof of their truck off. Sonic grabs the little guy and breaks it only to find out it's a mini bomb. He tries his best to take it off, but it ends up stuck on Tom's hand. Right before it explodes, Sonic is able to stick it to a rock, but doesn't back away in time. He ends up getting hurt, so Tom rushes to where Maddie is. This is where we meet her sister Rachel, who doesn't like Tom at all. Their beef is so funny to me because Tom is genuinely a nice and caring person, but Rachel thinks he's a terrible cheating husband. At first, he walks in with Sonic covered because that's a lot to take in for a normal person. Rachel's not having it, and Maddie asks Tom what the hell is going on. At the same time, their dog Ozzy is trying so hard to take the blanket off Sonic. He succeeds, and at the sight of Sonic, Rachel passes out. Tom begs Maddie to help the little guy since she is a vet after all, and while that is happening, Rachel's daughter, Jojo, gets Sonic a pair of her shoes, which are his iconic red shoes. Maddie agrees to go with them to take Sonic to the Transamerica building. Once they finally make it to the roof, Tom and Sonic have a heart-to-heart since this is the last time they'll ever see each other. This scene genuinely makes my heart hurt because you can see how much this trip meant to Sonic and how important Tom and Earth are to him. He also thanks Tom for saving his life, which is all that Tom ever wanted to do. You can see it in his face when he realizes he doesn't have to leave Green Hills, since he fulfilled his goal of saving someone's life. Unfortunately, when Sonic tries to leave, Dr. Robotnik shows up to stop him. Sonic's best idea is to push Tom and Maddie off the building while he stops Robotnik. Sonic is moving so fast that the objects around him look like they're frozen in place. So as he's messing around destroying the drones, Robotnik is slowly pressing a button on his ship that will power it with one of Sonic's quills. In turn, this gives him the same amount of speed as Sonic, which throws him off. Sonic falls off the building and drops some of his rings. He successfully grabs one of them so he can save Tom and Maddie from hitting the ground. This starts a chase scene between Sonic and Dr. Robotnik, where Sonic uses his rings to travel across the world in order to get him off his trail. Spoiler alert, this does not work. They end up back in Green Hills, and you can see how tired and beat up Sonic is compared to Robotnik. It seems as if all hope is lost until Tom admits that Sonic is his friend. Hearing this gave Sonic enough motivation to beat Robotnik's ass. He decides that he's not leaving. Robotnik is. He opens a portal to the Mushroom Planet and pushes his whole ship in there, destroying it at the same time. Sometime later, as Tom and Maddie are fixing up their home, they're visited by Commander Walters, who asks if they've seen Sonic at all. They lie and say they haven't seen him since the incident. When he leaves, we find out that Sonic was there the whole time. They invite Sonic to live with them as they turn the attic into his own bedroom. Honestly, such a cute scene, and it warms my heart that he was able to find a family here on Earth. There are 2 end credit scenes. One shows Dr. Robotnik looking a lot more like his game counterpart, with a bald head and huge mustache. The other shows that Tails has found out where Sonic is in hopes to warn him about something dangerous. And that's the end of the first movie. This one is definitely one of the more simple and generic storylines, but it's important to know how Sonic fits into this world. It's a great rewatch in my opinion because it can be pretty straightforward, but there are still the little details you can find. This one used to be in my number 1 spot for the movies, but since the 3rd one came out, it's in 2nd place. I have a more personal attachment to this movie that I won't really get into, but that's why it's one of my favorites. People say this is the weakest one of the bunch, and that's okay. They were trying to get the general audience to like Sonic before they mentioned any more of the iconic characters. It was fun to see a different visual interpretation of Eggman, and I low-key miss when he had hair. Overall, a very cute family story with some cool action scenes. That all changes in the next movie since there's a lot more they put into it. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was released April 8th, 2022, and I had the privilege of seeing it in theater. It was such a fun watch with my family, and it's the whole reason I even looked into Sonic. The cast of new characters along with the lore and Dr. Robotnik's new design blew me away, and it sent me down the Sonic rabbit hole. If it wasn't for this movie, I wouldn't be making videos or even creating my own versions of the beloved characters. I remember waiting for the day it would be released to stream and stayed up on a school night just to experience it again. Anyway, this movie follows Sonic and Tails as they race against Knuckles and Eggman to retrieve the Master Emerald for the ultimate power. We have returning characters such as Tom, Maddie, Rachel, Wade, and JoJo, as well as some new characters being introduced. The movie starts with a follow-up of Dr. Robotnik on the Mushroom Planet. He's been stuck on this planet for 243 days, and it shows. He created a beacon out of his busted-up ship so he could find a way to escape by alerting other life forms. He powers it with the quill he got from Sonic, and with that the beacon is able to function. After some time, a ring gateway opens up as 3 humanoid figures step out. People have pointed out that they look a lot like the Babylon Rogues from Sonic Riders, and finding that out made me extremely happy. Sonic Riders is one of my all-time favorite Sonic games, so seeing it be mentioned is exciting. Unfortunately for these guys, Robotnik set up a bunch of traps to get rid of them. He's successful in taking care of them, and as he's running towards the portal, he's stopped by Knuckles the Echidna, played by Idris Elba. They form an alliance to get rid of Sonic for good. We cut to Seattle as Sonic is looking over the city to find any possible crime to stop. Lucky for him, there is a bank robbery chase underway, so he decides to take over the robber's car. Unfortunately, there's bombs on board that immediately get lit up. He decides to throw the bag of bombs into a nearby trash truck, but he misses one stuck in his quills. He throws it out the window that ends up in the sewers that totally get destroyed because of it. Sonic thinks he did a great job, but the newspaper says otherwise. While fishing with Sonic as their little hangout time, Tom confronts Sonic on what happened in Seattle. Sonic says he was a hero and that he saved people, while Tom says he was childish and reckless. And this scene speaks to me, especially with Sonic saying,
"You're supposed to be my friend. Stop trying to be my dad."
My heart, bro. It was already very apparent that they had a father-son relationship, but Sonic trying to push Tom away from that is absolutely devastating. I love how the movies talk about how Sonic is just a kid and that he isn't the hero we all know and love from the games. Just yet. And that's what this movie is all about. It's about taking care of other people to be that said hero. It's not about how cool you look, but the actions you make to protect everyone. Anyway, Tom gives Sonic a little speech to encourage him to wait for his heroic moment instead of searching for it. He says,
"But trust me when I tell you there will come a time when your powers will be needed. But you don't choose that moment. That moment chooses you."
This line is literally so peak. In the next scene, we find out that Tom and Maddie are going to Hawaii for Rachel's wedding, which means Sonic has the whole house to himself for a couple days. And you know what that means? Party time! We get a montage of Sonic messing around in the house, which includes creating a skateboard obstacle rink, trashing the living room with tons of food, and a massive bubble bath. This is when we get introduced to Tails, played by Colleen. I don't even want to try and pronounce her last name, I'm so sorry. As he's here to warn Sonic about someone dangerous. This is actually the same voice actor they used for Tails in the games, and I'm so glad they went with her voice, because I can't see anyone else fitting this little guy. Tom introduces himself to Rachel's fiancé Randall, played by Shamir Moore, and while that happens, Sonic and Ozzy are about to watch a movie. They get interrupted, however, by a blackout along with a flashing TV that definitely freaks Sonic out. As he's about to open the door, someone on the other side opens it for him. Who, you might ask? Dr. Robotnik. But he has his new friend Knuckles to start the party. Sonic immediately gets punched through 2 walls. Sonic powers himself up to do a spin dash, but Knuckles stops him and pins him to a tree. Knuckles mentions Longclaw, and that gets Sonic's attention, but before he could finish, Tails runs Knuckles over with the cop car he stole. A chase between Knuckles and the iconic duo ensues as Sonic questions what the hell is going on. This is where we find out about the Master Emerald and how it very much is real. They're able to escape with Tails using his tails to fly them out of there. We then cut to Knuckles explaining what the Master Emerald is and that he and Robotnik can work together to find it. Robotnik informs Agent Stone he's back and to get his things ready. This is where we get to see the movie steer closer to what Game Eggman looks like, with him wearing a lot more red and having his iconic bald head and huge mustache. Sonic and Tails end up at Wade's house to gather their thoughts. While looking at the map Longclaw gave Sonic before he was forced to leave, a hologram of her appears. She informs him that she was the protector of the Master Emerald and where to find the compass that locates it. Sonic insists that Tails comes with him to Siberia and promises nothing bad will happen to him. Totally not foreshadowing. While Dr. Robotnik was away, Agent Stone ran a coffee shop named the Mean Bean, waiting for the day that he would come back. He set it up as their secret base in Green Hills. Every so often, the movie cuts to Tom and Maddie in Hawaii to see what they're up to. Nothing super important happens, other than when Tom was messing around with JoJo, he switches the wedding ring with the ring Sonic gave him to come back home. This is important for later, so keep that in mind. Sonic and Tails end up in a small tavern where there are many intimidating faces. With the language barrier, Tails uses a gadget to translate what he says into their native language. However, it doesn't work very well, and it makes them sound pretty mean. Because of this, the people in the tavern figure out they aren't human and decide to throw them in the fire. Before they succeed, Tails looks for a way to save them by basically initiating a dance battle. With the right change of music, Sonic and Tails are able to win with the whole crowd cheering. Dancing seems to be a crucial part when it comes to creating the Sonic movies because in every movie there's at least one dance scene. I hope they never get rid of this because I love seeing characters just having fun being themselves. After the dance battle, Sonic and Tails have a heart-to-heart where Tails explains that he was ostracized on his home planet and that Sonic inspired him to leave his home to find him. This scene is also super cute because I love their relationship so much. Again, found family is my favorite trope, and the love that they have for each other is genuine. This movie and Sonic Frontiers portrays them perfectly, especially with that one cutscene for Frontiers. It broke my heart hearing that they could be going down different paths soon, since it really does feel like he grew up too fast, as if this series isn't 34 years old. Anyway, the next day they make it to where the Master Emerald Compass is, and we get a short background on the Chaos Emeralds. Basically, the Echidnas created the Master Emerald with all 7 of the Chaos Emeralds. The Owls thought it to be too dangerous, so they took it from them, and they've been at war ever since. Once they got the compass, they were immediately ambushed by Dr. Robotnik and Knuckles. Another chase scene ensues as Sonic snowboards down the mountain, destroying drones in the process. Knuckles catches up with him and corners Sonic at the edge of a cliff. This is where they both get personal, and we find out that Knuckles lost his father the same day Sonic lost Longclaw. Before Sonic could convince Knuckles to join them, Tails comes in to save Sonic. Knuckles, thinking this was a ruse, escapes with Robotnik as Tails gets badly hurt to the point of being unconscious. An avalanche starts and Sonic calls Tom to help him with the ring he gave to Tom. Remember when I said he was messing with the rings before? Yeah, so when he throws the ring, he finds out it's actually the wedding ring. Tom has to go up and ruin the wedding so he can get the ring to save Sonic. Randall refuses to give Tom the ring, so Tom punches him in the face. He throws the ring and creates the gateway that ends up bringing tons of snow to Hawaii. After everyone collects themselves, Sonic explains that Robotnik is back and that the world is in danger. Before Sonic could even try helping Tails, he gets captured and put into a cage along with Tails. As Tom should, he tries to fight his way into saving Sonic, but he ends up getting handcuffed with them. Now, you may be wondering what the freak is going on. Well, remember Commander Walters? Turns out he set up the whole wedding just to capture Sonic, which means that Rachel and most people there are agents as well. Crazy. He also says that he created a global task force called Guardian Units of Nations. Gun, which is only half true. Maddie and Rachel decide to break Sonic and team out with the little gadgets Tails left behind. As Maddie saves them, Rachel has a word with her fiancé where we find out that Randall actually did fall in love with her. While all of this is happening, Robotnik and Knuckles find where the Master Emerald is hidden. It's in a giant labyrinth that is very reminiscent of Labyrinth Zone from Sonic 1. Their location isn't very much a secret since once the Master Emerald was revealed, a giant beam of light appeared. Sonic tells Tom and Maddie that his time to be a hero has passed and that he's the whole reason Tails got hurt. The character growth that Sonic has in this movie was so well portrayed. He finally realizes he has people he needs to protect and that he can't put any more people in danger. As a brief intermission, we cut to Wade as he finds out where Agent Stone is and holds him captive in the former coffee shop. We'll come back to them later. Since the location of the Master Emerald is on an island, Sonic is forced to run across the sea. This scene is actually super cool with the effects they used and how intense it feels. It also kind of reminds me of a similar scene from the second Frozen movie. Anyway, Sonic makes it to the room with the Master Emerald just as Robotnik and Knuckles were about to retrieve it. We then get to see an absolutely sick and well choreographed fight scene between Sonic and Knuckles as we get to see just how strong these two are. While these two are fighting, Robotnik makes his way to retrieve the Master Emerald for himself, and he succeeds. Without the Master Emerald, the entire labyrinth comes crashing down, causing the whole place to flood. As we know, Sonic can't swim for the life of him, so he's quick to get to higher ground. However, Knuckles gets trapped under rubble. Sonic, not wanting to leave Knuckles, dives in anyway and is able to free him, but trapping himself in the process. We cut to Sonic and Knuckles safe on the beach as Sonic questions why Knuckles saved him. We get to see them be vulnerable again. Specifically Sonic, as he talks about being a hero isn't about taking care of yourself, but taking responsibility for other people. I love seeing how open Sonic is when talking about his feelings in these movies. I'd rather see him show more human emotions instead of how cool he looks in battle. And I feel like that's what most people don't understand. A character that's written with real emotions and thoughts instead of the cool hero persona is what makes them likable. Again, it's not about looks, it's the actions you make. Not to say that there aren't times where your looks can help you be likable. Tails comes in to take them back to Green Hills so they can retrieve the Master Emerald. As they make their way there, we get to see how Robotnik acts and thinks with the Master Emerald. He ends up creating a giant robot that's powered with the emerald and causes destruction in his wake. We watch our three heroes work together to get Robotnik away from people, as well as getting the Master Emerald back. Tom and Maddie also help with evacuating everyone, and once they're all safe, they follow after Robotnik to help Team Sonic. Sonic gets Robotnik to follow him as Tails and Knuckles sneak their way into his robot. Sonic isn't able to run for long as Robotnik uses a laser to destroy the bridge he's on, and in turn gets hurt pretty bad. Once Tails and Knuckles are able to get inside, Tails uses one of his gadgets to distract Robotnik as Knuckles uses this time to punch the Master Emerald out of him. His robot crashes down as it temporarily shuts off. This doesn't stop Sonic from trying to get the Master Emerald away from Dr. Robotnik. Just as he's doing this, Robotnik powers up his robot again. Tom and Maddie make it to Sonic right before Robotnik tries to crush him. This is a very short victory since the car that they were driving gets flipped over. As Tom, Maddie, and Sonic are surrounded by fire, they express their love for each other as they think this is the end. Actually such a heartbreaking scene as we see them fearing for their lives but also showing how much they love each other. Right when you think they get crushed under Robotnik's foot, it's stopped because of Super Sonic. And he wastes no time to make an insanely cool entrance as he easily lifts Robotnik's foot off of him. Sonic makes quick work of Robotnik as he punches several holes through his robot. As he returns to his friends and family, Knuckles warns Tom and Maddie that he is no longer the Sonic they once knew. However, Sonic immediately proves him wrong as he uses his power to give himself a chili dog. I love that they did this as a nod to Fleetway Super Sonic. If you're unfamiliar, in the Fleetway Sonic comics, the Super version is an evil entity that wants to destroy everything in his path. The last scene before the credits shows Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Tom, and Maddie playing baseball. It's super cute and heartbreaking at the same time because in the first movie, Sonic is forced to play by himself, but now he has a whole family to play with. The game is cut short due to Knuckles absolutely obliterating their only baseball. We get our last heart-to-heart in this movie as Tom expresses how happy he is that Sonic has buddies to grow up with. And Sonic responds with the most gut-wrenching line ever. He says,
I've got a lot more than that, Dad.
Are you kidding me? He finally admits he's his dad? And you can hear Tom's voice breaking as he hears this. Oh, my Shaylas, bro, my Shaylas. There's only one end credit scene as we find out when Gunn was wiping out info on Robotnik, they found a file that dates back 50 years ago. It's revealed that Shadow will be in the next movie. We also find out that Agent Stone survived the crash and will definitely be appearing in the next movie. And with that, that's the end of the second movie. A lot more happens as we meet two new characters and we're introduced to the Chaos Emeralds. They were able to balance new information while still keeping this fairly simple and funny. I love seeing the growth in not only Sonic's character but also Knuckles. The casting in this movie was also fantastic as we were able to get the Idris Elba to voice our favorite Echidna, and also getting Tails' original voice actress to play his part was the right move. Like I said in the beginning, this movie is the whole reason I even looked into Sonic, and I'm so grateful I did. I've met the most welcoming and kind-hearted people in the midst of all the toxic fans in this fandom. And the art in this fandom is beyond gorgeous. Everyone is so talented, and I'm so incredibly thankful that so many of you accepted me to be part of this amazing community. Like I mentioned before, I want to give a brief summary of what happens in the Knuckles series that is relevant to this movie. For starters, Wade and Knuckles actually became pretty close friends and has asked Wade to watch over the Master Emerald. Knuckles trusts him with his whole heart, and I find that super cute. Secondly, Knuckles gains a new power called the Flames of Disaster, which he uses once in the movie. Basically, he has fire punches when he uses this power. This is definitely a nod to Sonic 06, as Iblis is also referred to as Flames of Disaster. Anyway, Sonic the Hedgehog 3 was released December 20th, 2024, and I had the privilege of seeing it in theaters twice. The first time I was able to experience it in 4DX. I highly recommend watching at least one movie in your life that way. It was such a thrilling and new experience for me. The second time, I watched it in a normal theater. This movie follows Team Sonic as they try to stop Robotnik from destroying the planet. Dr. Robotnik is able to recruit two new characters in this movie, and one of them I was not expecting at all. The movie starts with a very dramatic location called Prison Island located in Tokyo Bay, Japan. This is where they're keeping watch on Shadow the Hedgehog. We get to see brief flashes of Shadow's past before he starts to wake up. Gun soldiers ready themselves as Shadow is about to escape. There's a brief pause before Shadow breaks out of his containment and beats the shit out of the gun soldiers. He makes his escape as he skates across the ocean in the most epic opening scene and title card yet. We cut to Team Sonic as they're about to race each other, which Sonic finds hilarious. Sonic thinks he won, but as he's about to do his victory dance, Tails and Knuckles are at the finish line. Rightfully confused, he notices that these two are actually holograms, which immediately worries him, so he makes his way back to the starting line, where he's surprised with a party. The family wanted to celebrate the day that Sonic came to Earth and call it his Be Earth Day, which I find incredibly cute. Sonic and Tom have a cute bonding moment as they explore Sonic's old home. He lived in a cute little cave that still has a few of his things before moving in with Tom and Maddie. This is where an important foreshadowing and parallel happens between Sonic and Shadow. Whereas even though Sonic lost one of the most important people in his life, his heart never changed. He stayed true to himself instead of letting the pain create someone more destructive. As we know, Shadow did the complete opposite. He immediately turned to anger as he was confused and still processing what happened. This movie does a perfect transition into that as Sonic says,
I don't know what I'd do without you. I'd probably be a totally different Hedgehog.
For movie Shadow, they were able to get Keanu Reeves to voice Shadow, and he's such a perfect fit. When I first heard about Keanu voicing Shadow, I was definitely iffy, but hearing the emotion and care in his voice sold it. Keanu researched Shadow and wanted to portray him as accurately as possible, and that's what I want from a celebrity that does a voice acting role. This is a perfect example of what you should do, where Chris Pratt is what you shouldn't do. Anyway, Shadow finds out that he was in cryostasis for 50 years, and before he could get far, Gunn surrounds him. Back to Team Sonic, they're enjoying their peaceful camping trip until they get interrupted by Director Rockwell, played by Kristen Ritter, as she informs them they're needed in Tokyo. They make their way in a helicopter that is definitely a nod to Sonic Adventure 2's intro scene, since Sonic says the iconic line,
Talk about low-budget flights. No food or movies? We're out of here.
I can't even begin to put into words how happy hearing that made me. As they land, there's another game reference as they make the flying formation they do in Sonic Heroes. When Shadow shows up, all three of them immediately think of how similar Sonic and Shadow look. I will never understand this because there are so many things that are different from each other, such as color, quill shape, and just overall vibes. Shadow doesn't trust them at all, so Knuckles takes this opportunity to start the fight. Sonic says he can't take us all at once, and then he in fact takes them all at once. This movie has a ton more references to the games because after Sonic beats them, Sonic tries getting up in the same way he does in the Shadow the Hedgehog intro. As Shadow leaves, he takes a laser gun and a motorcycle. I won't point out every Easter egg because we'd be here a while, but that's another reference to Shadow's game. Not wanting Shadow to get away, Sonic ditches Tails and Knuckles to go after him. A chase scene ensues as they race around Tokyo. They end with Sonic and Shadow crashing into each other that causes a short blackout and it leaves Sonic unconscious for a bit. Team Sonic meets Commander Walters at a Chow Garden Cafe. This is where we get a brief backstory on who Shadow is and why he is the way he is. This also contradicts what Commander Walters says about Gunn in the second movie, where he says he had recently created it when it's been around longer than that. Their chat with Commander Walters is cut short as the Chow Garden gets attacked by Robotnik drones. Everyone, rightfully confused, become even more perplexed as a masked man shows up to destroy the drones. Before they can chase after that guy, Team Sonic quickly checks on Walters as he was badly hurt in the explosions. He gives Sonic a key to the Eclipse cannon, saying he's the only one he trusts. Team Sonic follows the masked man as he takes them to the harbor. Turns out it was Agent Stone, and he asks them for help. This is where we also find out Dr. Robotnik is alive, and he definitely let himself go. Every movie they make him look closer and closer to Game Eggman. He's gained more weight, and after his haircut, he has his iconic bald head and huge mustache. Sonic realizes that they have to work with Robotnik in order to find out who freed Shadow and who's controlling Robotnik's drones. Before I go any further into the story, I want to take a moment to talk about Agent Stone and Robotnik's relationship. Throughout the movies, you can see how much Agent Stone cares for Robotnik, even though he never gets the same kind of care back. This movie really drives home in my eyes how in love Agent Stone is with Robotnik. I'm not just saying this for the sake of making it gay. If you watch literally any scene with these two, you'll know what I mean. What makes the relationship even more intimate is that when Agent Stone cuts Robotnik's hair, it isn't fake. Lee Majdoub is actually cutting Jim Carrey's hair. I'm not sure if they ever will make it canon, but I know that Lee quite enjoys the ship and encourages people to keep endorsing it. Okay, back to the movie. Before Team Sonic and Team Robotnik make their way to the abandoned gun base, we see that Shadow has made his way there first. He goes through the halls and rooms, reminiscing on the time he spent there. This is where we get the full backstory of Shadow. This is our look at movie Maria, played by Alia Brown, and they couldn't have picked anyone more perfect. We watch the two grow closer and Shadow being more open about his feelings. As they sit at the top of the base, stargazing, Shadow drops a line that comes back later. He says,
"A light shines, even though the star is gone."
He then questions if he's dangerous and talks poorly about himself. It breaks my heart to see Shadow so down in the dumps. He feels so out of place here, but Maria makes him feel normal. Maria is such an important part of his story, and they did such an amazing job at showing their relationship. It genuinely brought me to tears. We cut back to Shadow as he's welcomed by a familiar voice. Team Sonic and Team Robotnik finally make it to the gun base and are hit with a dilemma. There are 3 different paths and only so many people. They split up as teams, Sonic and Robotnik, Tails and Agent Stone, and Knuckles by himself. We watch as they slowly get picked off by Shadow. Knuckles first, then Tails and Stone, and lastly Sonic. Before Sonic gets beat up by Shadow again, he looks around the base to see what remained of Shadow's home. Robotnik being the only one left, the mysterious person is finally able to reveal himself. That person being Gerald Robotnik, Ivor Robotnik's grandfather, which if you've ever seen the games is actually not possible since it's been a while since the whole gun incident. I do like the addition though, since Game Gerald didn't have that much screen time up until Shadow Generations. For movie Gerald, they just casted Jim Carrey to play him because, they are pretty similar in the game. They even make a joke about it when the two first meet. Anyway, Gerald recruits, I'm going to call him Eggman now, to help retrieve the second key for the Eclipse Cannon. We cut to Team Sonic tied up as Shadow takes the key from them. When Team Robotnik leaves, Shadow throws a mini black hole into the gun base and leaves Team Sonic to die. Thankfully, they're able to escape, but the gun base does not survive. And after watching this a few times, it made me realize that Shadow destroyed the only thing that was left of Maria out of anger. As Gerald and Robotnik spend quality time together to pass the time it takes to get to London, Team Sonic asks Tom and Maddie for help. We walk in on Tom and Maddie trying to fill their free time with hobbies, but they couldn't quite find anything to fill the void that is their crazy adventure with Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. They make a plan to infiltrate gun headquarters in London before the Robotniks beat them to it. Maddie suggests that they just use the Master Emerald to easily get the key, but Sonic immediately shuts that down. He says it's way too dangerous to ever use again, and they promise to keep it hidden. I wonder how long that's going to last. Unfortunately, Team Robotnik makes it to London a little bit sooner than Team Sonic. Tom and Maddie use holograms to disguise themselves as Rachel and Randall, since they both work for Gun. Which turns into some of my favorite scenes because these two are so funny. Tom and Maddie make it into their server room so Tails can have access, but as mentioned before, Team Robotnik was a little quicker than them, so they try and beat them to it. Before Gerald and Eggman make it through the lasers, they decide to have a dance moment that is actually so iconic. Like I said, I love the dance scenes, and this one is super out of place, and it's perfect. Anyway, Sonic tries to make it into the gun base before the shield closes and is almost incinerated by it, but Tails comes in clutch to throw him in. He barely makes it in time, but once he's about to get the key, Director Rockwell hits Sonic with an anti-gravity floor. I think this is a reference to the levels in Sonic Adventure 2 where they had the same idea, where one color made you go up and the other down. The rest of Team Sonic are forced into the vault with the Robotniks and Sonic, except for Knuckles. He was waiting on the outside in case of emergencies, and this is where he uses his Flames of Disaster to break the outside shield. Knuckles tries turning the gravity control off but ends up breaking it, causing a lot of chaos. Tom, Maddie, and Tails are all stuck to the floor as metal poles are forced down with them. As Sonic tries to save Tom, Director Rockwell is stuck near the Robotniks and tries to inch her way towards the key. She's successful in getting it along with Sonic saving Tom from a near-death experience. As Director Rockwell leaves, Tom uses the hologram to make himself look like Commander Walters to persuade her into giving him the key. It works, and as Tom is walking back to the group, his hologram bugs out and he's back to looking like Commander Walters. Terrible timing for that though, since Shadow is looking for the key. He especially has it out for Commander Walters as he was there when Maria died. Shadow punches Tom so hard that he's immediately knocked unconscious. Sonic finds what happened and quickly rushes to Tom's side, the same way that Shadow does with Maria.
Please, please, please get up. Come on, please wake up. Wake up, wake up, wake up, come on. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
Maria.
And they actually edit it like that, bro. Are you joking me? the pain in Sonic's voice as he's begging Tom to wake up. Don't talk to me. Team Robotnik are finally able to access the Eclipse Cannon, and we are treated to a game-accurate Eggman outfit for both Gerald and Eggman. The way Eggman reacts to them is exactly how I felt when I saw them. Literally so peak. Team Sonic watches in horror over Tom as they watch the Eclipse Cannon rise out of the river. As Tom is rushed to the hospital, Sonic angrily suggests they use the Master Emerald to stop them once and for all. Knuckles doesn't want Sonic to use it for vengeance, but Sonic doesn't care. Knuckles refuses to fight him, so he informs him that Wade is the one protecting it. He doesn't even really try, as Sonic takes it from him and immediately turns to Super Sonic as he shoots up to the Eclipse Cannon. It's not quite the same design as the game Eclipse Cannon, but I'm so glad that they still put Eggman's face on it. Shadow questions Gerald if this is even what Maria wanted, but Gerald is quick to manipulate his confusion into anger so he can get Shadow to power the cannon with his chaos energy. We get to see exactly what happened to Maria, and it is just as devastating as in the games, if not worse. They captured Shadow's confusion and sadness perfectly. Eggman finds out that Gerald is going to completely destroy Earth with the Eclipse Cannon because bro still isn't over his granddaughter's death. I understand that grief is different for everyone, but come on man, this is not at all what she would have wanted. This is where Gerald drops one of the coldest lines that really puts into perspective how he feels about Eggman. He says,
We're family. We have each other. Oh, Ivo. You'll know Maria.
It makes you really feel for Eggman in this movie because all he ever wanted was someone to care about him, and when he finally got what he wanted, it ended up being fake. You can tell in Eggman's expression and body language that he feels betrayed and that he definitely isn't on the same side as Gerald. Before we get to see Eggman betray him, Sonic comes full speed to the Eclipse Cannon to take out Shadow. As they're crashing back down to Earth, Shadow points out to Sonic that he made the same decisions as him, but Sonic denies it. This entire fight scene literally had me in tears. It was so beautiful, not only for the fact that it was Super Sonic and Super Shadow, but the way it was choreographed and the dialogue. Shadow says,
Why are you alone? Where are your friends? They tried to stop you, didn't they? But you came anyway. Your anger was too much. What kind of hero abandons his friends to pursue revenge? Abandons his family?
You're joking. Shadow makes the mistake of mentioning Tom, which gets him punched so hard he makes it to the moon. As the fight is happening, we see that Eggman is betraying Gerald and they both start fighting. They're the more silly fight compared to Sonic and Shadow. When Sonic finally makes it to the moon, he's so close to beating Shadow for good, but the gesture Shadow makes to his heart snaps him out of his rage. This is where they both get vulnerable in the best scene of the entire movie. Shadow opens up to Sonic about losing Maria and how his pain and anger is the only thing he knew. Sonic admits he felt the same way, that the pain was unbearable. Sonic tells Shadow that his pain never went away, but the love he feels for her is more powerful. The sun rises and Shadow thinks back to what he said about the stars.
The light shines, even though the star is gone.
Bawling my eyes out over this scene. They're so genuine and immediately are able to bond with one another. You can tell that even though they've only known each other for a short amount of time, they understand. They understand everything they went through. Oh, but here comes the fun police talking about how they hate each other and all. Watch this scene. Watch it and tell me they hate each other to my face. But the movies aren't canon to the games. Why does that matter? Just look. A beautifully written scene between two friends. It doesn't matter that they're rivals. It doesn't matter that they were fighting a few minutes ago. It doesn't matter that Shadow thinks Sonic is annoying. It doesn't matter. This scene portrays them perfectly, and I need them to carry the same vibe in new Sonic media. Anyway, after their beautifully written scene, they do the coolest dap up ever as they turn super again. with Live and Learn playing in the background. We cut back to the Robotniks fighting, and it seems like Eggman is losing to the point he's dangling off the edge. Gerald thinks he won as he turns away from Eggman, but spoiler alert, Tails and Knuckles save him. Eggman uses the quill he got from Sonic as he pokes Gerald with it. The shock is so powerful, it sends him into the Eclipse Cannon's energy. We then see Sonic and Shadow hold off the laser with themselves as Eggman, Tails, and Knuckles steer the cannon away from Earth. Sonic falls out of the laser, losing his super, and Knuckles and Tails go to save him. While that happens, Eggman and Shadow try to stop the Eclipse Cannon. Eggman buys Shadow enough time to push the cannon away from Earth. They both sacrifice themselves to save Earth, but before Eggman is finished, he sends out one last message to the world. He tells Agent Stone how important he is to him, and it literally broke my heart hearing this speech. Team Sonic lands safely on Earth, and as we look to the sky, we see what remains of the Eclipse Cannon. We skip ahead to when Tom is out of the hospital with only a broken arm to show from it. They're back to camping, and they're ready to actually try that race again. The movie has two end credit scenes. The first shows how Sonic greatly overshot the finish line, ending in New York. As he figures out how to get back home, we see in the darkness as Metal Sonic tries to shoot Sonic. I was already stoked to see one of him, but it turns out there's enough to surround Sonic. Lucky for him, Amy comes in with her hammer. So sick. The second end credit scene shows that Shadow survived the explosion. And that's the end of movie 3. What an exciting experience. I honestly have no idea how they're going to top this one in the next movie. I wish I could experience this movie for the first time again, although I do still get excited every time I watch the end credit scenes. This movie had so much action, and it was honestly their best storyline in my opinion. It captured the feelings of grief pretty well, and I love Shadow's portrayal in this movie. They made him more than just the emo or edgy version of Sonic, because he is so much more than that. And the way they depicted their dynamic is exactly how I see them. I'm so grateful to live in a time where I get to experience these movies when they're coming out. These movies aren't for everyone, and that's okay. You can totally say you didn't enjoy these movies, but can we stop bashing other people for liking them? There's nothing wrong with people having differing opinions, and honestly the money that Paramount makes from these movies shows that there are tons of people that do care. If you want new fans, don't get mad at them for getting into Sonic because of the movies. Movies are a great way to introduce a wider range of people about a certain topic or franchise. Movies are one of my favorite art forms, and seeing Sonic the Hedgehog on the big screen is one of the coolest things I get to experience. I hope that these summaries at least interest you a little so that you can experience these films for yourself. I left out a lot of details because I don't have time to give a frame-by-frame explanation. I wanted this to act as a gateway for those who haven't watched it for whatever reason. These movies are more than Sonic the Hedgehog. It talks about grief, loss, and finding out where you belong. Plus, these movies let us see these characters interact with one another in ways we wouldn't see in other media. Thank you to everyone that stuck around to the end. I wasn't expecting this video to be so long, but I'm glad I made it. It might be boring to most, but I had fun making these drawings and talking about one of my favorite movie franchises. I'm not quite sure when or what my next video will be, but just know that making these videos for you guys brings me so much joy. I have such a caring community, and I hope that I can keep creating videos for you. I love you all, and I'll see you in a few.